So, dear friends, all what we know very well that we are doing lecture series for the past 3 days, and we have very eminent personalities, eminent archaeologists who have been kind enough to join the lecture series. This lecture series, as you all know, that distinguished lecture series by top scholars from India on wide range of archaeological topics like excavation, exploration, and conservation has been taken up by Heritage Cell of MAKAUT, Maulana Abul Kalam, Azad, University of Technology, Calcutta, under the guidance of our learned Vice Chancellor, Professor Saikat Moitra. This is the fourth lecture today. The first lecture was on conservation of monuments, the present day challenges which we are facing, was given by the director of the MAKAUT cell, Dr. Pranikant Mishra. The second day, Dr. K.K. Mohammed, the Padma Shri awardee and an eminent archaeologist from ASI, gave lecture on the ruined temples at Madhya Pradesh. He explained us how best he had preserved that temple under the very bad situation where dacoits and other peoples had the hideouts. That temple was known as Bateshwar Temple. That was of 10th and 11th century AD. The third lecture was from, welcome sir, our Vice Chancellor Rao Sahab has already joined here. Thank you sir for joining us, and I welcome you. I'm Dr. P.K. Mishra from MAKAUT Heritage Cell. So we all welcome you for this program as our guest of honor, and we feel proud and very much happy to see you here. So we have started the program, and so this is our fourth lecture. The third lecture, as I told you, that Keka Banerjee from Asiatic Society has delivered yesterday, and she had informed in detail about what are the items which are in the Asiatic Society, which is one of the oldest and earliest institution of India where the archaeology was started. She explained us very well that how they are preserving the manuscripts which they had in the society. So today is the lecture of a very eminent archaeologist, professor of Calcutta University, Professor Durga Basu. Durga Basu has been very kind to us to accept our invitation, and she has spared time to discuss on excavations of Kankandighi, a site on world's largest deltaic region. This is one of the very important sites of the country. As we all know that Kankandighi is situated in 24 parganas of West Bengal and was excavated in 2013-15. It is an early medieval Buddhist site from 8th to 10th century, and the findings are of the Pala period. As we all know that Pala's history is very popular in Bengal, and her excavation has proved so many new finds in archaeology. So I will request now our assistant professor Anuja Bose to just give an introduction of our main lecture which Professor Basu will be giving, and even introduce Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mizoram University on this program. Anuja Bose.
Sir, Vice Chancellor sir has joined. Ma'am, our Vice Chancellor sir has joined. Anuja ma'am.
Oh, good evening, sir. I am about to introduce.
Good evening, Anuja Bose, Dr. Durga Basu, and I can say, this Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mizoram is there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. Oh, we were waiting for you, sir.
Yes, yes. Yes. I had to join another meeting. So
I know, sir. I know.
Yes, yes.
So, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mizoram University, yes, Professor Rao is already here, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, sir.
Sorry, I'm little busy, little late because of the lack of that is link. No,
Connectivity.
it was not given to me. Link was not given to me. So
Okay.
they thought that they were sent, but it is not reached me. That's why I just got delayed. Thank you.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
So, Dr. Misra, may I say something? Because I have to leave early. I have another meeting. So,
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Join this final day or valedictory session of this program. This is a great thing that you have organized this 5-day, this workshop and or training program, or webinar or lecture series. Whatever it is, the outcome is same. This is basically knowledge related to archaeology, and for that purpose, we have created our this archaeology cell or heritage cell to nurture this all these different activities, particularly pertaining to restoration, preservation, conservation of these heritage sites. And Dr. Misra has joined and to make this activity this very strong on our behalf. And very soon we will be introducing structured academic programs. Before that, it is basically a warm-up session, and where we are trying to connect lots of personnel and experts in this field with us through networking and collaborations, and through digital platforms. We are organizing these things because of these compulsions in this COVID pandemic situation. But whenever the situation is normal, we will be organizing some physical meet as well, inviting all these experts to our campus, our university, these offices, university centers for physically present and for this making the deliberation in physical mode. But this digital route is also good enough, because the advantage of this is we can connect with the different personalities at any point of time. And distance is no bar here, time is no bar here. So this is one of the biggest advantage of all these things. Now in heritage restoration and preservation, we are planning to take up certain research activities, and Dr. Misra already has taken up these activities. We are planning to publish some documents from this cell through our university publication center, and Dr. Misra already has written a book which has attained lots of popularity on Rakaldas Bandyopadhyay, but at the same time, I would like to request him to go for editing or writing further these documents pertaining to this archaeology or personnel associated with archaeology for benefit of our learning community, of research community. And we are going to take up certain research projects as well. We would like to engage some more personnel officially with this cell. And recently one activity has started here. One of our friend, Mr. Chopra, he is instrumental in taking up this activity. This is restoration of heritage sites, and already Heritage Commission of Bengal, they have accorded this work to Mr. Chopra, and their university will also play a role. The initial activity will be restoration of the house of Lord Canning, which is situated at the bank of this near this Bay of Bengal and the junction of Ganges. But Dr. Misra knows all these things. But to cut it short, now we are taking up lots of ambitious projects and planning to make ourselves this profoundly visible in the coming days. And by this time, we would like to have these numbers of literatures, numbers of papers, documents, and either digital or physical documents available with us, so that it can be displayed at different occasions. And I believe that with this from these 5 days discussions, we could generate enough resources which can be in near future captured with the these publications of a proper monogram. Maybe inviting these articles in a more structured manner from all the participants over here. And my request to Dr. Misra will kindly take take this activity, take up this for the benefits of this of the researchers and for the university as well. And I wish all the success for all these exercises and endeavors taken up by Heritage Cell in near future. And my sincerest thanks to Dr. Misra, Ms. Anuja Bose, for taking up these activities. My heartfelt thanks to Vice Chancellor Mizoram University. In spite of his busy schedule, he has joined I believe that all our participants, they will be enriched, enlightened from the deliberations from VC of my Mizoram University, and Dr. Durga Basu has also joined. So I think this all their joining, all their participations will uplift this level of understanding and knowledge of all the participants who are present over here. So with this, thank you very much. Dr. Mishra, kindly take this program ahead. My sincerest thanks once again to Vice Chancellor Mizoram University. Sir, I would like to meet you personally once all this pandemic situation is over. Now the major thing is we are very much scared about this third wave and subsequent waves. We do not know what is going to happen in near future, but still let us pray that we will be safe and we will be working together in near future for the benefit of our society, community, and country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Very inspiring welcome by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Soikat Moitra Sahab, and he has been so kind to our heritage cell, and with his cooperation and with his guidance, we are doing a lot of new things, and in coming years, we'll be doing many more archaeological, innovative things in our university. So now, as you know, that our distinguished lecture is going to start, that is on excavations at Kankandighi, a site on world's largest deltaic region, by Professor Durga Basu. As I have already told you, Kankandighi is situated in 24 parganas of West Bengal and was excavated in 2013-15. It's an early medieval Buddhist site dating back to 8th to 10th century, and it is mainly the finds are from the Pala period. So I will request now our Assistant Professor Anuja Basu to just introduce the great scholar who has come for the lecture to the viewers and others who are listening to this program. Anuja Basu.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Durga Basu is a former professor of Department of Archaeology, Calcutta University, and former syndicate and senate member of the same university. She has specialized in Indian art and architecture, Buddhist studies, and historical archaeology. She has published more than 50 articles in various journals of national and international repute and in the edited books. She has also published a monograph entitled The NBP Culture of Eastern India. Professor Basu has participated and presented various research papers in a number of international conferences held in Ireland, Jordan, Cambodia, Manila, Iran, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Sweden, Paris, and United Kingdom. She has chaired in the academic session of International Congress of Society of South Asian Archaeology held in Siraj, Iran, Sri Lanka, in World Archaeology Congress held in Jordan, and 15th Eurasia in Paris 2015. As a director of excavation, she has conducted excavations at Kankandighi and also actively participated in many other excavations held at Rajbaridanga, Mongolkot, Bihar, Mogulmari in West Bengal. Very recently, BAR International Series Oxford has published her article on public archaeology, its scope and lamination in regional aspects in current trends in archaeological heritage preservation, national and international perspective, edited by she is also the editor of a number of books and journals. Dr. Basu has published a number of her research articles in other international journals. Presently, she is director of Institute of Business Management and Research, Kolkata. She is the president of Society for Heritage Archaeology and Management, Kolkata. As a senior fellow of Indian Council of Social Science Research, her present research work is based on Indian vernacular architecture. Thank you so much, ma'am. A very warm welcome. And
thank you, Anuja, for
Yeah.
your introduction. And at the very outset, I pay my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your kind presence here. So, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Soikat Moitro, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Mizoram University, respected Dr. P.K. Misra, distinguished scholars, students, and friends. Today, I would like to highlight a particular site and the excavations, which belongs to the Bengal's deltaic region. And that Bengal Delta is the world's largest deltaic region. And here it is a very important site where the university, on behalf of university, we have conducted an excavations. And from these excavations, we have some very important informations regarding the early medieval settlement history and the culture. Now, prior to enter to the main discussions, I would like to highlight the conditions in the ancient time, or in just a few decades ago, about the early medieval culture of Bengal. Now, Bengal, as you know, that it's has a very regional entity, and it is culturally very rich, and almost Bengal witnessed the settlements, ancient settlements, or the culture from the very ancient time. And what we find that almost from 3rd century BC onwards, Bengal had a deep-rooted urban culture, and it continued for several centuries. And the settlements grew up almost from the urban settlements, especially grew up almost from the 3rd century BC onwards. But after certain century, up to certain point of time, that the culture of Bengal can be compared with the Middle Gangetic Valley, or the culture of the Middle Ganga plain. But almost from 8th, 9th century onwards, that Bengal was emerging as a separate entity culturally. Absolutely, it's different from the other parts of India. Now, here what we find that almost the cultural continuations from 3rd century BC and up to early medieval, or up to 12th, 13th century periods, a continuous history. We find a continuous history of that particular region. But the most flourishing stage, archaeologically speaking, the most flourishing stage reached during that early medieval period. And from this period onwards, we are getting a regional entity of Bengal. And especially, we have the cultural distinction and from that period onwards. But now the early medieval period, regarding this particular phase, in a few years or a few decades ago, we have some problems, because by early medieval culture, that we mean only that it is a culture where we find some sculptures in stone sculptures or the bronze sculptures. But the discoveries of these sculptures, just actually this period corresponds with the Palushina dynasties. The discoveries of these sculptures do not mean that it is the settlement, or that they do not show the settlement history of that particular region. So provenances of this, or the discoveries of the sculptures, cannot be recognized as the settlement sites or the settlement areas. So it is, at that time, it was really a problem to the Bengal archaeology to find out that what exactly the cultural components of the early medieval period, what are the material remains of that particular phase, cultural phase. So at that time, the scholars only felt that the sculptures, and only collected the sculptures, and they felt that particular phase can be identified with the sculptural remains. But now the picture is slowly changing with the different excavations, with the materials discovered from various excavated sites. And what we find, archaeologically speaking, that in Bengal, we have two major sites or major horizons, geographical horizons, where the early medieval sites grew up, or the settlements grew up. And there we find the cluster of sites belonging to that particular cultural phase. So it is not that only that on the basis of the sculptural remains, we can identify a particular settlement area, but now we are able to identify a settlement area on the basis of the objects coming from that particular phase through the excavations in various parts of Bengal. Now, on the basis of these excavations, up to till date, then we can mark two major horizons, geographical horizons, where we find this cluster of sites belonging to that particular period. So one is in the northern part of Bengal, in the vicinity or in the geographical region of Varind Plain, especially in the district of West Dinajpur and the Malda district. And another is in the coastal part of Bengal. So here what we find that in Varind Plain, especially, and excavated a key site is there, that is Bangar. And in Bangar, that we find a continuous settlement history from the 3rd century BC onwards up to 12th, 13th century AD. And it is absolutely a very key site where we can gauge the settlement pattern of that particular region and the cultural materials or the material remains of that particular phase. So it is very interesting to find out that the Bangar excavated by in the very early 1936 by K.G. Goswami, and he reported certain materials which are connected with the day-to-day life and even the structural remains that time that developed in and around this vicinity. So along with this site, then we find other small sites clustered around the key site. And now in due course that another survey was taken by Dr. Sinapaja, who extensively surveyed that region and establishing the settlement pattern of the early medieval cultural phase in that particular region. And now what happened to the coastal region? Coastal region is again a very important geographical region where we find a continuous cultural or the settlement developments from the early period from almost the 3rd, 2nd century BC onwards. And it absolutely that the settlements and the culture flourished during the early medieval period, that means 8th, 9th to 12th, 13th century AD. So here we find not only the sculptures that in stones or bronze, but at the same time the antiquities, and these antiquities are related to the daily life of the people. And now we are able to identify the settlement areas or the habitational areas of that particular region. So there are two major centers in West Bengal. One is in Varind region and another is the coastal part of the coastal Bengal. And but in spite of this, that we have certain sporadic developments in other districts also. But now we are able to identify the site, early medieval site, with its cultural components, various cultural components. And now it is, but due to the lack of excavations, that we have a very limited scope to identify certain things, to solve certain problems related to that particular cultural phase. But we are in position to highlight that early medieval culture and early medieval settlement areas of these two regions. Now the Kankandighi, as Dr. Mishra has already pointed out, is located in the deltaic region and world's largest deltaic region. And it is absolutely different, that particular region geographically and culturally different from other parts of Bengal. So Kankandighi is located in the district of South 24 Parganas under the jurisdictions of Raidigi police stations. And it is absolutely located on the banks of River Mani, a tributary of Thakuran River in the coastal plain. But the coastal plain, as you know, the culturally, geographically, it is quite different. It has its own distinct features. But when we reach to that particular area, then we find that already there was the certain established settlements areas in that particular region. So we have selected that particular region for our survey, and we locate that we have just simply marked that particular site, Kankandighi. The importance of the site, Kankandighi, was first marked by late Kalidas Datta, and he was a local historian. He extensively surveyed that particular coastal region and reported the antiquities recovered from this region. In his report, we find that he collected the sculptures like Navagraha, the Vishnu sculptures, and many others. So he reported all these things in his article, Antiquities of Khadi, which was published in Gorinda Research Society in 1928 and 29. So for the first time, we came to know that it is archaeologically, the site is very potential. And now in his report, we also find that the brick structures along the river and the side of the river banks, the brick structures are coming up, indicating that the series of structures, a series of settlements, and along with this river sides. So it is very interesting to find out that the coastal region was studied with habitational areas, and definitely we have chance discoveries of the sculptures, stones, terracotta objects, potteries, and many others. But large-scale excavations, we do not have any large-scale excavation in this part. So only one excavation have been undertaken by the ASI Kolkata Circle in the Dr. Deul. It's at 6 to 7 kilometers away from the main site of our main site, and they conducted excavations in a small scale excavations, and the findings, it's there, but it is not, we cannot say, because it is a religious complex, we cannot say that we can have the idea, we can have idea about the day-to-day life, about the antiquities or the specific cultural components of the early medieval period. So the site was explored extensively by other agencies also. And we find that after late Kalidas Datta, then the many other scholars visited that place and surveyed that particular region, and they reported the significance of that particular site or the particular area of the Kankandighi. Among these scholars, the Professor Dilip Chakraborty, then the Nirmal Mukhopadhyay, then R.K. Chattopadhyay, and many others that collected the material, that surveyed the region and reported the existence of a culturally rich site of that particular region. Now, later on, what we find that the State Directorate of Archaeology and Museum surveyed that particular region, and they also reported that various archaeological sites along with the different mounds existed in and around this region. Now, the chance findings, from these chance findings, that survey or the explorations, definitely we have so many sculptures in bronze, in stones, and terracotta figurines, and indicating that it is a very highly developed settlement area in the coastal Bengal. So we have also selected the site, and we have visited the site in 2013, and we extensively explored that particular region so that we can understand the nature and characteristic of the settlement areas. And again, we can understand that the archaeological situations or the historical situations of that particular region. So with this view then, and with the inspirations of the earlier explorations and report, then we took the decision on behalf of Department of Archaeology, Calcutta University, to conduct an excavations in that particular region. So there are two villages, and that's Kankandighi and Raidikhi. These two villages lie on the opposite side of the river Moni. Since the Kankandighi is located just left bank of the Moni River, it is a tributary of Thakuran River. So if you want to visit that place, then you have to go to from the Raidiki to the Kankandighi, and then just crossing the bridge or the overbridge over the Moni River, and you will find that the site is a huge site. And in and around within the 1 or 2 kilometers, then we find a number of mounds, and sometimes some of the mounds are very large, some of the small mounds are there. So it is started with a number of mounds, and these are all the structural mounds indicating the habitational areas. So what we find that there are the mounds like Pilkhana Mound, then Motbari, Katsri Danga, then Gojbari, Shetrajati, and so on and so forth. But what is interesting to find, the Kankandighi, though it is a small village, but it is in 1 kilometer, we find 2 other very interesting mounds, that is the Kachridanga and Motbari, and where we find the beautiful antiquities, and at the same time we find the structures, Greek structures. Now, from the local people, that we came to know that once it was a large Motbari, and others mounds were also very large, and the people, they started collecting the materials from these sites. And if you visit the village, then you will find that in some village, some parts of the village, then at every footstep, you will find that is the antiquities. Antiquity means it is the objects. You will find archaeological objects in form of potsherds, in form of brick bats. So it is absolutely archaeological, and historically this place is very important. And what we have seen during excavations, that in most village houses, the people are keeping the antiquities. They are keeping, sometimes they find from the mound, sometimes from when they are going to dig the ponds and the paddy fields. Then they sometimes, these are all the chance findings, but they keep it. Now the people are very much conscious about their about these antiquities. I don't think that they were aware of their national treasure. They were aware of their heritage, their culture, Indian culture. I don't think so. But they are keeping these antiquities in such a way that it is their treasures. So now, when we reach this particular site, when we explore that particular site, we find that the mound, and actually we have first selected the largest mound of Kankandighi, that is Pilkhana Mound. And when we visited that particular mound, then it is studded with the upper surface of the mound. Is studded with brick beds, potsherds, then the stone blocks, and many other things. So definitely that mound attracted us, and we took that decision that we will excavate that particular site. And no doubt it is a structural mound. It is a structural mound, and we started our excavation during 2014, and it is a single culture site, the Kankandighi. But before we start excavations, we studied that, we tried to understand the geographical presence, the geomorphological features of that particular region. Because as you know, that the development of any culture, whether it is early medieval, early historic, or any city or urban life, that the geography always plays a very as a vital role for regulating the life of these people. So here what we find, that the southern, especially the southern district, 24 Parganas, that are 24 Parganas, and the coastal district Midnapur also are very significant for discovering certain antiquities, for discovering the early medieval, early historic, and also early medieval sites. Now, physiographically, if we see the district is one of the major settlements of early medieval period, and it hardly reveals any well-defined stage of its evolution. And absolutely, the southern 24 Parganas is marks the simple. It's a typical deltaic street with flat mud, the flat terrain, and the district has been considered as the land of islands, interspersed with numerous rivers, innumerable distributaries, and the tidal creeks. So the major river system is here, the Hooghly and its distributaries, and the rivers are characterized by the meandering, largely by the meandering pattern with less bend. Now, again, what we have seen that the entire region is traversed with or endowed with the rivers like Matla, Hakuran, Moni, and many others. So it is a land of the recent, sub-recent, it is a land of recent and sub-recent alluvial cover. Now, what is interesting to find is that the areas in the vicinity of the active river courses are being raised, and whereas those deprived of the annual depositions are being depressed. So here what we find, it is a tangled region of the estuaries that the river courses, rivers, water courses. So it is covered with the marshes, land, swamps, then tidal creeks, that mud flats, and also the alluvial covers. So it is very interesting to find out that in this situation, in this geographical horizon, we have seen the development of the early medieval culture in a very glorious manner, in a very flourishing manner. And that has been recorded through the discoveries of not only with the sculptures, not only with the terracotta figurines, but also the objects of the day-to-day lives. So we can definitely, with this mission, with the aim of that particular, to understand the characteristics of the early medieval culture of Bengal, West Bengal, and to understand the characteristics of the structural mound of Pilkhana, and even the antiquities. We want to know the antiquities or the chronology of that particular site. With all these missions, with all these objectives, we started our excavations during 2014. And only with that particular site, we were able to excavate the site only for one season, because it belongs to the private property. It's a private owner, and we were the university people who were not allowed to excavate further. But the mound is potential, archaeologically very potential. The region is very potential, and definitely the excavations we require, that particular region requires the archaeological excavations even more. So with this introduction, I would like to share certain photographs so that you can understand the antiquities and the cultural components of early medieval culture, early medieval period of Bengal. Okay, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
One minute, just. Okay. So this is a site, the excavated sites, and just I want to the next slide. Now, Kankandighi has been divided into two sections, that is Uttar Kankandighi and the southern, the Dokhin Kankandighi. That means the northern Kankandighi and the southern Kankandighi. Northern Kankandighi is more potential, archaeologically more potential than the southern Kankandighi. And another interesting thing is that the southern part of the district, 24 Parganas, is popularly known as Sundarbans. And it is dominated by or it's absolutely covered by the mangrove forest, dominated by the mangrove trees, that is Sundari trees, and it is Heritiera forms. And here what we find, that just besides this mound, Pilkhana Mound, that actually the river flows along the mound. So it is absolutely that if you cross the river, and then you will find the mound, and it's a large amount of that particular area. So the next slide, I would, yes, now you can see the map, and the site belongs to the deltaic region, and especially the coastal region. And so here you can see the Kankandighi area. Now the next slide, you can understand that how that is the Kankandighi. This is the Kankandighi area, and now just a few kilometers away, that is a Jotted Devu. Now from these particular satellite imagery, then you can understand that in the same vicinity, then we find the complex. Since Dr. Mishra already mentioned that it is a Buddhist complex. So in the same vicinity, we find that Buddhist and the Brahmanical complex, Brahmanical temple complex here. And now it is started, the entire area started with the settlements. And definitely certain objects are coming up from the villages, indicating that in and around these two complexes, the settlements grew up during the early medieval period. So it is very interesting to find out that whenever even it happens, it also happened in the Barin region also. So there was a key site or the key area, and along with that within this area, that one should be a key site or key area, and the cluster and the other settlement areas clustered around this particular region, particular site. So here also it happened that along these two complexes, we find the large scale settlement areas, because it is not excavated. These these sites or these areas are not excavated. But we can explore this region, one can explore that particular region, and then you will find the objects are coming up. So it is interesting to find out the entire region is a site, absolutely. And definitely in future, we will definitely something we can explore more, and we will try to excavate this region, probably on behalf of the university. University can do this. Now this is another mound. I have already told you there the mounds are rolling mounds, and you can see that my students are working in this with the survey, this particular. You can see the structures coming out from that particular mound, and it is from this, it is the height. You can easily understand the height of this mound. So it is the Kachari Danga mound, again the structures. Now what is interesting to find, because even from the explorations or the archaeological survey, then we find this objects which is similar to the other sites also. The objects like simply the pots, pot shards, and the brick bats. Brick bats are the bricks, even the measurement of the bricks are similar to that of the other regions of West Bengal and the sites belonging to the early medieval culture. So it is important to note that that it is not that isolated coastal region, the early medieval sites developed in isolation. But we don't think, after excavations, after reporting this, after getting the information from this, that we can easily understand, we can easily say that definitely there was certain relationship, that there was certain link with the other early medieval sites also. So it is again from the Montbury. We explored also the another site very near to the major site. And you can see the exposed bricks there. So it is again another site, another mound. And now I want to show first certain objects, the sculptures and other objects collected by the local people, local collectors, and some of the local museum personnel. And they are trying vigorously to collect the material to conserve the objects, to preserve these objects, because now people are very much aware of their treasures. So they're keeping in their houses. We do not know what they are doing with these objects, but the local collectors, local museums, they are collecting the materials, and they are keeping this material for the safeguard of these antiquities. You can see the stone sculptures of different Brahmanical and also the Buddhist deities. You can see the Shiva, and it is Ganesha, and the Buddhist, the Buddha is here. So these are all from the Kankandighi villages. So these are the collections of the local people, local collectors. Now these are some potteries and from the Kankandighi, and again you can see this is a very old pottery, and it belongs to almost the Kushana period, probably because the spouted vessels in Bengal are mainly coming from the Kushan period, late Kushan period. So here it is a beautiful, it is there's a gray ware we find this. So these are all explored materials. So when we visited the places, the museums also, we have seen that is the huge collections of the Kankandighi in forms of the potteries, terracottas, stone sculptures. So it is really very potential area where we can get an idea about the cultural remains of Bengal, and especially the early medieval cultural remains of Bengal. So now we started our excavations. You can see the big mound here. It is a plan of the Kankandighi. Now it is very nearer, the mound is very nearer to the Moni rivers. You can see here, and we started our excavations. Now I have already told you the mound is located just beside the Moni river. You can see the mangrove forest and the river Moni. It is very interesting site because you can see here, and along the side of this river banks, you will also find the brick structures. So this is the environment you can see, and just beside this Moni river, you will find our mound. So this is a Pilkhana mound where we took our excavations, undertook our excavations. It is a huge mound, 40 meters by 40 meters. And absolutely, it is untouched, because sometimes due to the rains, certain parts are opened up, and then the people started collecting the materials. But we decided to protect this mound. We tried it, but as you know, it is very difficult in the midst of, because it stands in the midst of the field, paddy fields, and it belongs to the property, that local property. It's local people. So this is very difficult to walk in future. So unless, because we got the opportunity to take excavation for 1 year in this particular, it's a huge mound, and the people were not ready to give permission to the university to excavate it further. We do not know why, because they wanted to hand over this property to the government so that they could take over the site, and probably they have their vested interest. So this is the mound, and now we started our excavations, and almost 9 trenches were dug out. And since it is a structural mound, we started digging it in a horizontal manner, and each and every trench has revealed that structures. Now our students, because basically it is a part of our curriculum in post-graduation class, that we trained our students. Even today we train our students. So here the students are walking in the field, and you can see from that environment, because the local people are very much interested when you dig it, because nowadays it is very difficult to dig a particular well, because we have to face certain problems. But somewhere, some parts that the local people are very much interested, they are very much cooperate, and but they cooperate us. But now in certain places that it is very difficult to dig out. So you can see that how the peoples gathered and to watch that excavations work in that particular region. Now next, that I would like to show some of the trenches, that how beautiful the floor, rammed floor with the Sudki rammed floor, and the structures. But certain structures are there, but it is very difficult to identify these structures in one excavation, in one season excavations. It requires more excavations, and so that we can get the entire plan. So it is not possible for any excavator or director to get the entire plan in one season, because it is a huge mound and a huge site. So here we can see that the structures are coming up, and sometimes a very interesting structure we find. It is a floor level. You can see here a beautiful red floor level, and now it is a massive brick walls. And we dug it up to the depth of 15 meters. You can see this is absolutely, that is the depth of this trench. And here you can see that is the different layers. And that layers gives us an idea about the soil. Sometimes we find the loose soils with brick beds, brick linings, that the compact soil. Sometimes we find the silt depositions. So now up to 15 meter, we went to the deep of this particular trench, but we couldn't penetrate more because due to the coming up of the subsoil water. So it is difficult for us to enter any more into this. So it is the stratigraphy, but it is the single culture site. That means we find whatever the cultural remains, whatever the structures we find, this belongs to a particular phase. It is definitely early medieval period, but it is the 9th or 10th century we are now dating. So it is the prime time of that particular site. So we have the several layers of the soils, but the culturally it is a single culture site. But the structure, what we have found, that it is absolutely the true structural levels are recorded here. Now here you can see that is a massive wall is going on, and here you can see that is a huge bricks. Sometimes in the walls we find at least the 43 inches almost bricks are there. We do not know why they used such a large or such a long bricks here, brick wall. Now you can see that is a huge storage jar and filled with the mud. But after clearing, we find that a beautiful sculpture, the fragments of the sculptures, then the lamps and the codes and many other small things, brick bats. So perhaps they deposited here all that they wanted to discard these materials, and they deposited in that particular stores. The vessels or the huge store vessels. Now you can see the in situ large storage jar and the meats. Now here we can see another beautiful structure. Why it is a very interesting structure? If it is simply the religious area, if it is a simple, we do not identify clearly that whether it is actually, because on the basis of the sculptural remains, one the terracotta figurines, on the basis of the cells, we have identified this particular site as a Buddhist site, and also it's a monastic complex probably, but it is a settlement area. Now here you can see that it's a square structure, and having the projections at the four sides, it is a projected area. You can see the projected area. And if you see very carefully, then the upper part of this is absolutely the existence of some wedge-shaped bricks laying here. So what does it mean? Because if there is a wedge-shaped brick, that means somehow there was a circular structure over this. Was it the superstructure? Because it is a Buddhist site, we have identified, but we do not have any other, we do not find any other structures, such structures in any other strange. So it is actually the plinth is there, and then over this, simply the round shaped structures, probably structure was there. So it is very interesting to find. And now we can see the ramped floor again, and so it should be ramped floor. Now another interesting part is that it is the cells. Here also we find that is the cells and different parts and different sizes. And again here we have seen the reuse of bricks. So there are two structural phases in that particular site. So this is also, since it is a structural mound, so we do not have the much antiquities in this particular region, in this particular site. Now coming to the pottery assemblage. Here you can see that we have gathered the potteries, and potteries are marked with the black ware, grey ware, red ware, dull red ware. But one particular category, one particular red ware is very important for the ceramic assemblage of the early medieval period. Now you can see that knife-edged pottery. It's a very thin pottery. And now earlier we do not have any idea about exists about the pottery of the early medieval period. But in Bengal, that we have definitely the pottery of the early historic periods. In BP, we have, and again the Shunga potteries, then the Kushan potteries, then the Gupta potteries. So diagnostic potteries we have, and we have this, and we have these potteries from various sites of Bengal. But what about the pottery assemblage of early medieval period? Earlier, we didn't have any such idea, but now the picture is changing, and we can establish, we can mark this pottery, because this type of pottery has been recovered from other sites also, from Mughalmari, from Bengal, from other sites, even from the Retd, though it is a dull Retd, but even from Malda, Jagjibanpur, we find this type of pottery. Now we are able to say that the knife edge pottery in redware, it's a bright redware, and that can be that it is possible that these potteries belong to the early medieval period, because from the excavations we have that particular material, so we can identify the early medieval potteries, because this was one of the problems in early medieval cultural phase, that we do not have any diagnostic pottery, we cannot recognize the diagnostic pottery. So here now the picture is changing, and now we have the several circuited bravewares and other potteries with the beautiful decorations stamped, sometimes the mat emplaced, sometimes the flower motifs. So these are, and now what is interesting to find, when we surveyed that particular region, and the Gajbari and other mounds, Motbari, and then the Shetrajati, we find a similar type of potteries, just like these designs. We find the same type of designs. So it is one culture that prevailed in that particular Kankandighi areas and adjoining areas. So the same type of potteries and probably this was the region which developed, which flourished during early medieval period, no doubt of it. Now, since the Kankandighi is absolutely the religious site, then we can easily expect the certain ritual objects, that is the lamps in various shapes and sizes. We find these lamps from that particular site. Now, another thing is that is the bricks. Bricks also, bricks can also be marked as the object of the early medieval phase of this particular region, because these type of ornamented molded bricks we have noticed right from the Karnar Shivana in the Murshidabad, even in the Malda region in Jagjibanpur, even in the Mughalmari, and even in Kankandighi. So from these particular, we are getting certain informations that it is a common phenomenon during that particular early medieval period, that people used this type of bricks for the constructions of the houses, for the constructions of the complex, or whether it is a Buddhist complex, whether it is a temple complex, or whatever it might be. But they use that type of bricks. And another thing is this, if you see, because I will explain later on, that here you can see that is a beautiful, that is a stucco plastering. So stucco is used for the plastering of the walls. Stucco was also used as a mortar in this particular region. So it is also very interesting that it gives us certain new clues that definitely the constructional works, definitely there are certain similarities with the construction, with the bricks, constructional works, or the materials of early medieval period. Now you can see the same type of, even with the Malda region, the Jagjibanpur, even we find the Mughalmari and many other Buddhist sites. So it is only excavated sites. I would like to highlight the excavated sites, because there are several sporadic settlement areas in other districts also, but definitely we will we will look for that particular materials. Now I am coming to a particular scientific analysis of the stucco materials. Stucco, as you know, that it is a compound of slacked lime, that sometimes gypsums, sometimes pulverized stones, fine-grained sands and muds were used to make this material, to create this material. It is absolutely a very soft type of materials, and it is very, the ingredients put in that particular compound differs from region to region. Now here what we find, that it is with the Kolkata Lime Society, the Kolkata Lime Center, we send this material, stucco materials, to this laboratory, And they sent us the report. And what we find, it is a very interesting report, because here you can see that the angular rock particles of the limestone, especially the dolomite stone, was used for the composition of this, and along with a very low graded marbles. Now here the question arises that this is absolutely the riverine plain, Bengal, and it's full of covered with the alluvial plains, so covered with alluviums. So from where are the sources of the stones? Now I will discuss this later on. Now you can see that the composition is different from the other regions also, because that particular gypsum was used in the northwestern part of India, especially in the Afghanistan and the Pakistan. And the earliest use of this stucco material for the constructional work, for the building material, even in the Harappan sites. And the Harappan sites, the Sanaullah, as you know, the great scientist, and he reported the scientific analysis of the Harappan stucco. Then there we find that the limes, with the limes, that the gypsum was used even in this. But the stucco was used in the ancient period both as a building materials, as a mortar, and even the most extensive use was noticed in its in image making. That means that with the help of the stucco material, because the stucco has its own plasticity, own plastic character. So with the help of these stucco materials, then they created the images also. And one of the greatest centers of the stucco images was in and around the Gandhar region. Beautiful Gandhar images came up with this material. And now the another center in the eastern India, we find the Nalanda. Nalanda also, we find the stucco images. So again, since it is connected that the development of the Buddhist settlements in that particular region, in Bengal especially, is not an isolated incident. So it is connected with other parts of the country. It is all connected with the Nalanda and other major Buddhist settlements. And here also, if you go to the Mughal, then you will find the beautiful stucco images in the Buddhist complex. But here what we find, that stucco was used as a building material, as a mortar and the plastering. So what is interesting to note, that this is the use of low graded marbles. From where the people got that marbles, so we will definitely discuss later on. And now we can see here, that is the iron nails. So many iron nails for the constructions they used, but we sent this iron nails for the metallurgical study to the Jadavpur University, the metals and metallurgical department, and they reported us that it is a very fine quality of the iron. It's a very excellent quality of iron tools, iron. They prepared this that iron tools. And I want to highlight just one thing, that it is absolutely significant to know that they produce such an important tool or the iron objects, that it is reported that iron objects from Kankandighi excavations fall under the ductile wrought iron group. One of the samples from one trench, it reveals an excellent pure iron having carbon content in ppm level. They reported us, and like modern IF steels, which India fails to produce commercially. So it is from this report, we can easily expect, we can easily understand that the skill of the manufacturer. So here what is the people during this period achieved that particular skill for producing such an excellent iron, because this iron is absolutely the soft and malleable nature, so it can be hammered and pressed into a shape without breaking and cracking. So this is the report coming from the analysis of the scientific analysis of this particular laboratory analysis. And now in situ, you can see that is the sculptures are coming up. It's a terracotta figuring. Now how it was in situ, the in situ positions of this. And now we can see the Jambolo image. Jambolo image, as you know, it is the counterpart of Kubera. And in most of the Buddhist sites, especially in Eastern India, that we have seen the existence of this method, because the Buddhist complex that most of the patrons are the traders. And that traders they offered worship, they offered donations to the Shangha, Buddhist Shangha. They worship that the Lord of Wealth. And so again, we find here if you visit Ratnagiri, you will find a number of Jambalas images are there. In Mogulmari, we find the Kubera. So it is a part of this Buddhist complex or Buddhist monastery complex that they particular kept that image of the Lord of Wealth, God of Wealth. Now you can see another, it's a broken image from the storage that we have seen, that is a devotee, it's a stone sculptures, and perhaps the deity is standing over here, but unidentified. Now again, you can see the in situ position of the sculptures, huge stone sculptures. And you can have that corner figures. It is a part of the architectural, it is an architectural part. So here also we have two sculptures. This is collected by the local collectors, local museum personnel. It's a Buddha image from the northern sloping of the Pilkhana Mound. And then we find another beautiful, at least 4 feet in height, that is about the image of Buddha. And again, this image has been collected from the pond, from the huge from Raidigi. It's a large tank, and then the people collected this material, and now the sculptures, perhaps they threw it up in the ponds due to certain inconvenience. Definitely, I can say that they had to throw it in this in the pond. Now again, this is my last slide, that I want to show you that when we visited that place, even perhaps these stones, huge stone parts of the architecture, these are kept on that particular particular mound. You can see the huge stone blocks and this platform. So this is the antiquities of this particular the cultural remains of early medieval site of Kankandighi. Now from these excavations, certain questions arise. Now, first of all, that from where it is a huge block of stones, and the sculptures, and in and around the region, we have so many sculptural stone sculptures. Now, from where that got that stones? Bengal is a land of alluvium. It's a riverine plain. We do not have any source of stones, but from where they collected the stones. So most of the scholars believe that they collected or they brought the stones from the neighboring western upland region, especially from the Chotanagpur Plateau and others. And they casually mentioned that they brought this through the waterways, through the seas, through the waterways, to the rivers. But is it possible that they also brought this through the land routes? Because it is the question that arises from these excavations, that is there any land routes? So we have to find it out, that if there is any land route from where these stones were collected or were brought to this particular region. Another thing is that the marbles is there. Now, and you can see the marble, then it is not the region for this stone, marble stone. So again, it is a question that marble granules were used in this particular composition. So it is again a question. So we have to solve these problems. Now, certain problems are we are trying to solve, that is regarding the day-to-day objects, regarding the other settlement areas and the pattern of the settlement areas. We have tried to solve these problems. But again, if we talk about the iron tools, the excellent pure iron tools, is there any local technology? Or if we compare this technology with the other centers, other Buddhist or other settlement areas, the iron tools, if we scientifically analyze the tools from the other regions also, then we can easily understand whether there is a common technology for producing that such nails or the such iron tools, or the regional or the very local technology was used for producing such because it is a pure iron tools, which India even today fails to produce commercially. So we have to look into all these matters. But now, slowly and slowly, the early medieval sites or early medieval cultures of Bengal is becoming clear, and now we can establish the certain objects for this particular period. We are not today, we are not ready to establish or to recognize the site on the basis of only the sculptural chance discovery. So we definitely in future, we will look for further excavations, and I would like to request here, the Vice Chancellor sir is here, and even the Dr. Mr. is here. Just look into the matter, because you have opened up a heritage cell, and archaeology is one of the major part of this, the archaeological excavations and explorations. So please develop certain infrastructure for excavating, for exploring the region, because we have to know certain things which are as yet it is unsolved. So it is my honest request to you, please do something for Bengal archaeology. Thank you very much for inviting me here to say these words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful presentation. Now, ma'am, with your permission, I'd like to take the questions that are in the chat box.
Yeah, definitely.
Ma'am, the first question is there any chance to do any kind of ethno-archaeological work to understand the kind of technological uses that was used in this region?
Yeah, definitely.
Or in this?
Yeah, definitely we can do this, because it is as you know that though we have extensively surveyed this region, but it is definitely it is the area where we can put technological, either in form of the iron technology, or whether we can study the materials locally product, whether it is the iron objects or the any other objects like potteries, the potters village is there. Then we can definitely ethno-archaeological work, we can do this, because right now it is not possible for us, because we have to definitely we have to get some clues of this, but definitely we can do this, because it is one of the important aspects of any archaeological works or investigations. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question from Aniruddha Bakshi. He's asking, during which Pala king's regime this site was developed? Is there any epigraphic evidence found from this very site?
Actually, the Khari Mondal, the Palo kings, as you know, Anuja, that the Khari inscriptions is there. So yes. That is, but in particular site only we have the Khari inscription, Khari Mondal inscription. It is mentioned in the inscription, Palo inscriptions. But now from here also, we do not find any such inscriptional record, especially in and around this particular village, Kankandighi. So we do not find it right now. Inscriptional record. So on the basis of analogy, whatever we have dated that particular site on the basis of the analogy on the basis of the pottery analogy and the similarity of the two regions, pottery and brick bats and the bricks also an indicative of this. So on the basis of that, we have almost dated this. Yes.
Ma'am, there's another question regarding the pottery that was found from the site. What were the nature, or what were the kind of fabric that was found?
Actually,
from the site?
fabric, it's a fine fabric. I told you earlier that it is a fine. Actually, now we are able to establish, we're able to mark the early medieval pottery, because a few decades ago, we were not able to identify what is exactly the pottery of Bengal's early medieval pottery. Now it has become, the picture is becoming clear that it is a knife-aged redware, bright redware. I have just one or two pieces. Even the Malda, even we have this redware, dull redware, but this is a one or two pieces of the very fine, thin. The fabric is very thin and well fired. The pottery, it's a knife-edge pottery. So we find this type of pottery from various early medieval sites through excavation. It is not the explored material. From excavations, from the layers, stratified layers, we are getting this pottery, and definitely we can identify this pottery as the early medieval pottery.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question that who are these iron workers that were
this is the question. This is the question. It is a very beautiful question, because I have already told you that the skilled persons, definitely there were certain workshops, certain industries that the skilled workmen, they worked in that particular workshop. So otherwise they couldn't produce such a important, such an excellent pure iron tools. So it is reported by the laboratory analysis, it's reported by the Jadavpur University of the Metallurgy Department. Definitely local workers were there. So it is another point. I would like to highlight that, was it a local people? Was it the local man who produced this? Or it is a technique used during that particular period? Unless and until we compare, we get the analysis report, scientific report from the other sites, early medieval sites of Bengal, then we cannot say. But it is now we are able to say at this moment that definitely local people produced with the excellent technology. They produced that such iron. But it is our duty to compare with the other sites also, and whether it is a common technology used for Bengal medieval period, or it is a local technology and it is different from the one region to another. We have to look into this matter.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question, ma'am, from Monisha Shaha. She is asking that, ma'am, you pointed out that stone and marbles have been brought through waterways as well as land routes. My question is whether is there any already established medieval trade link during Chotanagpur, Malbhumi and this region?
We have the definitely that the trade links through the Western Upland lands. We have the links, even some of the routes are there through the coastal region, through the Midnapur western part, and definitely we have the Raro region, we have to the Western Upland region we have. But now we have to find it out whether the stones were coming from these land routes. Definitely some routes have been there, and not only that, identified routes are there, but we do not know, because unless and until the same materials we could find in that routes from the explored materials, either explored or the explored excavations, then only on the basis of that we can establish whether it is from this route that the stones were brought. So it is again, it requires the archaeological investigations. Route is there, and it is the established route. So many scholars have worked on that particular routes. And even Dr. Archaeology worked in that particular, that it is a route from that Itkori, and from the western part of this, and then you can reach to the Jharkhand region. So it is routes are there, but it is not established whether stones were brought through this route. So it is again, the archaeological investigations are required.
Thank you, ma'am. And the last question is, ma'am, where can we know more about Kankandighi? Like, is there the published material or?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Actually, you can find it in so many published. That is, one is the Pura Britta. It's a brief report. They published, the West Bengal government, the State Archaeology Department has published a brief report of Kankandighi. And again, another book I have given just a glimpse of this particular excavations in Ganga. It is published by the Gyanuprabha from Benares. There you can find this particular, and now it is in progress. That report will be published, full report will be published. It is now progress, but a small report you can find in the Pura Britta, definitely, and the book.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Mishra sir to give his thoughts. Sir, please unmute.
Sir, please switch on your mic, sir.
Switch on your mic, sir.
Hello, I am audible now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm really thankful to hear this outstanding lecture, that too on field archaeology by Professor Basu. I had an idea that she is a professor and she would be working with the theoretical part of Calcutta University. But I, as an archaeologist, my experience having 38 years in field archaeology as a director of Rakhigari excavation and many other excavations in India. After seeing this lecture, I find that very few field archaeologists would be doing this kind of beautiful, very technical, highly knowledgeable excavation. I just want to congratulate her for this wonderful presentation which she has given about Kankandighi. Although Kankandighi excavation, I think, requires more detailed study because we have to see some of the portions of this mound where we can go down up to the bedrock. We can touch the virgin soil and then we can conclude the whole details about it. The interesting thing which she has informed was discovering early medieval pottery. Early medieval pottery's discovery is another very interesting point in this excavation because similar potteries we are getting in other sites of West Bengal. And with that, one problem oriented thing has been clear that early medieval pottery was like this. My view is that these potteries, after seeing in pictures, I could find that they are not very well levigated clay. The section of the pottery seems to be little thick, and I agree with it that it can be put in the late medieval period, but we have to study its originality, how it originated, whether it was indigenous or the local people have developed it or was brought from somewhere else. Like Mughal Mary and this pottery both can be compared, and with that we can know more informations about this pottery. The excavation part where she has got two periods, that is the brick structure, which she showed it so well, and I can find out it was very well documented and very nicely the excavation was taken up in a very scientific way, and she has followed the archaeological norms and principles very well. So, as an archaeologist, I congratulate Professor Durga Basu for this commendable work, and we would be inviting her on behalf of MAKAUT Heritage Cell again and again to take up some more excavations in Bengal. Already one of our proposal is pending, and our vice chancellor was also very keen that we should take up excavation either at Devalgarh or any other place where we can find some more informations about the history of Bengal and the historical archaeology of the country. So I congratulate you, Professor Basu, and I thank you for giving such a felonious, such an interesting lecture, giving all details of excavations, how this site was developing with the Pala dynasty's history, how this site has its own scientific reasons to develop and make a comparative study with other sites. Thank you very much. I would be again looking forward to see you with some very important works which has been done in the subject of archaeology and other things. And we will request you to please be with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anuja, I would request you that we have guest of honor, Professor Rao, also. So we should introduce all visitors, all listeners about him, and we should request him also to give few words on her lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Um, with us today, we have Professor Rao, and we are very, very fortunate, sir, that although sir has told me many times that this is not sir's field, but he is a doyen in zoological and biotechnological studies of India. And Professor Rao has been a force who has been doing this research work and so much. He has guided 25 PhD students and 20 MPhil students. He is the editorial board member and reviewer of several prestigious journals like Indian Journal of Bioscience, Journal of Pharmacology, Toxicology, Journal of Applied Bioscience. And also, sir, he has received several national, international award and has been a visiting professor and researcher of universities like Emory University School of Medicine, USA, and the University of Göttingen, Germany, Virginia Commonwealth University. And we are extremely fortunate. The sir has agreed to grace us with his presence. And now, sir, with your permission, we will please request you to give us small thought on today's lecture and our gathering.
Thank you, Anuja. You have made my job is very easy. No, you mentioned about my feeling to all of them, and I'm very much thankful to you. First of all, I thank Dr. Mishra ji and the speaker Durga Basu madam, who has given a wonderful talk on archaeological sites at the West Bengal region at 24 Parganas district, and it was really wonderful. And I also learned certain things. And I also thank Honorable Vice Chancellor for his introductory remarks. And I saw Professor Rao, Dr. Rao also from Mysore. Thank you very much. And it was wonderful. And my knowledge about archaeology has been enriched recently because of Dr. Mishra's lecture and Dr. Rao's lecture and several other studies. And before that also, I was talking to my people in my university about Mizoram University to start a heritage center, which was already started in Maulana Azad University at Calcutta. And I was also talking to them, and we applied several projects for starting a heritage center, cultural heritage center at Mizoram University. And I have allocated around 15 acres of land for establishing a cultural heritage center of Mizo culture. Mizo culture is one of the unique culture, and it was not having that much past several thousands of years of history like in other archaeological sites in India. It has got only, my knowledge goes, it is only 300 years to 400 years of archaeological sites in Mizoram they are having, and they are not really been studied very well, even that also. And we have one small museum in our university collection from the different sites, and we have recently called a public notice for establishing a heritage center in our university by calling public notice with the public donations from the articles which are actually been long lasting in their houses, and we are yet to get a big response on that. And it was really wonderful. And the archaeological studies goes with different excavations and different visual observations, and they will be collecting certain of the information which is available as a realms and artifacts, and it was actually been studied, and it was actually been interpreted. But my feeling is that because Dr. Mishra ji was he was in a technological university, he has to implement certain technological tools also for archaeological studies. This may be a wonderful latest advances in archaeological studies, because not many people has interpreted any technological tools for. I'm a layman. I'm admitting myself, but already Anuja has mentioned I'm a layman and I'm learner in archaeology. But layman's knowledge is been sometimes can be taken into consideration by the experts like Durga Basu or Dr. Mishra and Dr. Rao and everyone. You can also take my layman's knowledge or layman's opinions into another idea. Like that, I was asking archaeologists, they are actually looking at the visual realms or artifacts which are actually available in the particular area, and also digging of the particular area. If they go with some kind of engineering principles or technological principles like remote sensing techniques or magnetic stirring techniques, and mapping of the particular areas where prehistoric and modern history, more historical places. If they have some kind of comparative analysis by using the remote sensing, people they think that remote sensing can be only area which is actually been not been clearly been visible, but actually remote sensing has got recent dimensions of three-dimensional analysis of the sites. Normally we do two-dimensional analysis. So three-dimensional analysis also available in remote sensing. If the three-dimensional analysis, if it is possible to do in a particular area, you can understand more prehistoric things which are available in a particular area. And cost efficiency also will be very high, because normally if you have to go for manual analysis, it will be very costly. And if you go for remote sensing three-dimensional analysis, you can get more information with less cost and not without any kind of manpower. This is one, and more ideas can be obtained from the particular area. And magnetic remote sensing is one of the important surveying in archaeological sites is one of the area which is actually been very important using gems magnetic analysis, and they have practically analyzed several aspects in various countries about the prehistoric studies, and also sites analyzing the various geographical and geological conditions, and also the excavations at different places, and they have compared the various studies which have been done using this magnetic analysis. And the magnetometry and gradiometry also, that it gives an idea that how much in-depth of these realms are available, how long it actually been buried in the earth, and particularly the gradiometry analysis is one of the technique which actually been adopted in various other countries for archaeological studies. In my understanding that in our country, it has not been used this kind of techniques, and even including buildings and sites, and also furnaces, and even the realms which are available so many years back, also they can be studied by using magnetic gradiometry studies. This is one of the techniques. Actually, there are many techniques, engineering techniques, which are available in engineering and technology studies, particularly civil engineering and other mechanical engineering. These technologies can be, if it is been applied to the archaeological studies, archaeological studies in India. And also because people has to understand that this what is the archaeological studies and how they are giving, what is the importance of that. It is importance of that the history of our culture and how it has been there several thousands of years back. So how it has been present. So how the transformation and evolution has taken place. These are very important evolutionary studies in archaeological studies. They are having comparison. This will be possible if you can able to digitalize the various prehistoric studies and present historic studies, and you can have relationship between the evolution of the people and also from one area to other areas. This is my small understanding. I'm not really having any basic knowledge about archaeology because I'm purely animal sciences man and biotechnology man. I don't have any idea, but only because it is a heritage center established in technological university, which includes various engineering and technological courses. If they can apply those techniques into archaeological studies, it may be you can develop a course like engineering archaeology, or that is archaeological technology. Like that, this kind of course also can be planned, a diploma course or something. That may be a collaborative engineering areas. It may be very good for your idea. It is only one comment on this particular subject, because after listening to everything, I was having this kind of feeling in my mind. So I'm an odd man out, but I still try to do some kind of throw a light in this area of technological principles application in archaeological studies. Thank you very much, Dr. Mishraji, for giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you and to give some idea about my thinking, modern thinking of archaeology.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. You have given a very good idea about you introducing technological archaeology. I think it's a very innovative idea, and we will be discussing with our Vice Chancellor, Professor Soikat Mitra, about
Yes, sir.
this, and we can have a joint collaboration with your university and MAKAUT both, and we can come to some other conclusions. So my Vice Chancellor will be in your touch very shortly on this issue. It's a very good idea which you have
Yes,
given. Sometimes I am feeling that I am with the technological university where
yes,
all engineering colleges are here. How can we make it more friendly with archaeological engineering and technology? So
yes,
your
sir.
this idea is excellent, excellent. I'll be taking it to task and we will be meeting
Yes, sir.
shortly on this. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for giving such an innovative idea. And
Yes,
we
sir.
thank you very much for joining us in
Yes,
spite
sir.
of your busy schedule, and you have come and you have given us such a good informations, and you have listened Professor Durga Basu, an eminent archaeologist,
Yes,
all details of the excavation. I think you will also know many more things that how technologically we are doing scientific excavations in the
yes,
country in very odd situations where we don't have any kind of help, we don't have any kind of light, we don't have any other facilities, but we go for the excavation, we go in the field, we live in the camps, and then every day we do documentation of the things which we are finding. That is maybe a small bead, maybe a small stone or pottery. So we do all TDM documentation. And
yes,
very
sir.
shortly, when Dr. Basu will publish its reports, you will find that we work like a neurosurgeon who opens the head and he finds so many nerves inside, and then he knows every day new things, every operation he knows new things. Like that, we archaeologists are also working. When we open the site, it is just like a brain. We get many new innovative things which we beforehand we don't know. So her report I am also eagerly waiting to see, and I would request you to keep your blessings like this to our
Yes, sir.
this heritage cell, and we will be working together. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Anuja, I will request you to make a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for participating today and making this event a grand success. First of all, I would like to thank our guest of honor, uh, guest of honor, Vice Chancellor of Mizoram University, Dr. Rao. Thank you so much, sir, for being here and gracing this event. And secondly, I'd like to thank our prestigious guest speaker, Dr. Durga Basu. Ma'am, I'm extremely fortunate to be ma'am's student for 2 years, and now getting to know more in a setting like this is a blessing for me and for everyone who are listening to this talk. Listening to ma'am is always a great blessing, and thank you, Mishra sir, for always guiding us and keeping this heritage cell, giving us new ideas. And thank you to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Despite his busy schedule, sir joined today and gave his valuable ideas and comments today. And thank you everyone again for participating. We will be joining tomorrow for the last session of our 5 day long lecture series. Tomorrow we will be hearing from Dr. Sunil Jha. He will be talking about the Hazaribagh Hazarduari Museum. And thank you everyone. Thank you again.